broadcast network, AFTERBUZZ TV. Over 20 million weekly downloads in over 150 countries, and your number one source for after-show entertainment. AFTERBUZZ TV, the destination for TV superfans. Producing aftershows for over 300 of your favorite TV shows. Interviewing celebrities and showrunners. And bringing you behind-the-scenes exclusives. All thanks to E! Entertainment's Maria Menounos, producer Kevin Undergaro, and internet leader Akamai. Now, let the buzz begin!
Oh yeah, bring us in. That good intro music that we love. Hey, AfterBuzzers, and welcome to yet another Law & Order SVU After Show. Today we're talking Season 17, Episode 4, Institutional Fail. I'm Lauren Salaun, and you can find me on Twitter at Lauren Salaun. And Yell isn't here this week, as you can see. She is yet again in rehab. Clearly it is not working, but don't worry, I'm joined today by Isabelle Du. How's it going?
I'm awesome. How are you? So glad to be here. You guys can follow me on Twitter at Isabelle Du.
Awesome. We keep it nice and simple.
Yeah.
And guys, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube, iTunes, SoundCloud, and if you like the after show, and we really hope you do, go and leave us a 5-star rating in iTunes. And if you do that, we'll read it on air as long as it's really good. We also really love to read your comments on YouTube and talk with you on Twitter. So let us know what you guys think of the after shows and tweet at us. We've got the chat roll up right now, so I can see your guys' comments. Matthew Guy, no Yell today. She's gone. She'll be back though soon. Don't worry. We see your guys' comments, so talk to us in the chat roll right now. And you can always tweet at us using the hashtag ABTVSVU. So many letters.
And a third of the alphabet.
We'll be sure to see your tweets and keep the conversation going. So, as we tell you guys every week, obviously, you know, SVU deals with real issues and pretty awful subject matter sometimes that unfortunately, you know, happens in real life. So these things are very serious, but because sometimes it makes things a little bit easier to joke about them, we will make jokes and make light of these issues. And that's not because we don't take them really seriously, because we definitely do. It's just because sometimes that makes it a little easier and more fun to talk about this kind of icky stuff. So you've been warned. Dead baby jokes coming up. Just kidding. I actually don't have any, but maybe not. We also want to give you guys a hotline in case you know of anything or there's anything tough like this going on in your own lives. So we've got a hotline for you, the RAIN, Rape, Abuse, and Incest National Network. It's 1-800-656-HOPE. That's 1-800-656-HOPE. All right, so let's dive in here.
Let's just get right into it.
Yeah, let's do it.
Oh man.
So what did you think? This was a really political episode.
This basically, I mean, it was a mashup of a bunch of cases, right? And well, should we start off with the whole like how we felt about the backstory thing?
Yeah, we can. So a couple weeks ago, I think, and what we talk about a lot of the time is how whether or not we like the backstories being presented with the characters.
Yes.
And
I love them.
Yeah.
I still love them. But so it bugs me when they don't mention it. Like this week was one of those weeks where we're not going to mention it at all. So no appearance from baby Noah.
Yeah, Yell probably loved it. She does not like the backstories. I'm more in the middle ground. Like, I like hearing about them. I wish it was a little bit more balanced, like you. Yeah, more consistency, because today it was all politics, stuck to the issue that we were dealing with, because sometimes we see them more procedural and more about the actual crime that happened. And then sometimes they're more political, like today's episode, and then sometimes we dive into characters much more.
Yes, like Rollins. What happened,
yeah,
girl?
We'll get to it, but that's like a whole nother thing.
Yeah.
But in yesterday's episode, Peter Gallagher and his eyebrows, as Yale likes to point out, he is back as Dodds, which really kicks it off that, you know, it's going to be a pretty political one. And it was, from the stuff going on with Liv and her promotion, and then even to the Child Protective Services and the whole conspiracy side of things and everything that was going on.
I think with Dodds, I think we're going to see him so much more often in the rest of the season. And I really do feel like Liv can't catch a break with her personal life.
Yeah.
Ever. Like, seriously, just give the woman a personal life. Don't do this like, oh, touch and go, touch and go thing. And let her have her date. That they say that's not a date. I think they would be a cute couple.
With Dodds?
With Dodds. But I also wonder if maybe Dodds, in a way, is using Olivia.
You know, I feel like he's so political and so like, hey, you know, like finger guns to everyone that he's kind of playing the game. Though it did seem like he was flirting with her a bit.
He did seem like...
Nightcap. We were talking about this before we went on air. Nightcap is like... you have a nightcap before you go to bed.
Yeah, it's the Netflix and chill of their generation. And I really feel like he wanted to go on a date. But what was his ulterior motives? I'm not really quite sure, to be honest.
Yeah, I like Liv and Tucker more. But
maybe they should just introduce her a new man. How about that? Like, nobody from the Precinct and nobody from like
it definitely won't be Dodds' son, and we're kind of jumping ahead there. I don't think anything will happen there, but she needs like a new guy in her life. I think.
Come on, let's bring
a little fun. Let's get a little spice in Liv's life.
Yeah,
she seems stressed tonight.
She
last
did.
night.
But and you know what? She came out so sexy.
Oh yeah.
Like she came out like a bombshell right off the bat.
The new haircut, and her dress. She looked great.
Yeah, and that quickly went away. I was like, hey, there's this child who was a really cute kid, by the way. And then they didn't even go back to her personal life again.
Right. So speaking of the child, they find a malnourished toddler, you know, is found like kind of scavenging the streets trying to find food at a convenience store. No parents are in sight, and it becomes very clear that he's severely neglected, and they're having a lot of trouble tracking down his parents and, you know, who he belongs to. And so they go to the Department of Child Protective Services, and which is where we meet Whoopi Goldberg's character, Jeanette, who's the manager there. Things are disorganized. They're clearly understaffed, which is pretty much the case for most government agencies,
in real life,
like
absolutely.
social work and stuff like that, which is so unfortunate. And then they go to the house of the mother, played by Jessica Pimentel. I don't actually know
another Orange is the New Black.
I know they love SVU. I mean, actually, everyone loves SVU.
She's been on 2 other episodes of Law and Order. So she's played 3 characters total on SVU now.
Awesome.
So she's been on season.
It's like I feel like if you haven't done an episode of Law and Order in some like any one of them, then you're not an actor yet. Like that's when you've arrived.
Yeah.
I feel like
it's
not the big break necessarily, but everyone who's anyone has done and
totally.
It's like
it belongs on the resume.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and if you've done 2 or 3, you're pretty legit.
Like you're gonna have a good career, I think.
Yeah, she's been on season 10 for the episode Retro, and then season 7 for 911. I kind of wanted to like dig back to see, you know. Yeah.
So we've got this case. They find they've got the little boy. They end up going to the mother's house and finding her other child, Keisha, there in a cage, who is, again, so malnourished and nearly dead, and unfortunately ends up dying at the hospital as a result of prolonged neglect and abuse. And it's heartbreaking because that's something that shouldn't happen.
Yeah,
does happen.
At all.
Yeah.
At all. And yet, you know, it actually does.
Mm-hmm. And that, makes it so now that the mom is potentially guilty of negligent homicide, and then even the Child Protective Services, who's supposed to be checking up on these kids as well, because they clearly haven't been doing their job.
They totally nipped it at the bud with, like, the mom. Mm-hmm. They're like, when Olivia knocked on the window, she was like, she's a murderer. So they kind of cleared that out.
They jumped to that real quick.
They're like, that's done. We don't need to go. We all know what the trial's like, what the jury's going to say. And then they focus on pretty much the Child Protective Services.
Right.
So that's what the whole thing is about.
Yeah, which, I mean, I think in those situations, if that's the government agency that is supposed to be following up on cases like this.
They are responsible.
Yes, they're overstaffed and overworked, but you can, like, the falsifying all those reports and leading to so many awful things, which Barba highlighted just a handful of them in court. It's just awful. No excuse for that.
There is no excuse, and you do feel like because the child needs some sort of ally and they're supposed to be the child's ally, that they should be responsible. And yet at the same time, I mean, I don't know if we're getting too far ahead of ourselves now.
Okay, let's talk.
Should we just get to it?
Yeah.
Okay. Why are we even waiting? Okay. So with Whoopi Goldberg's amazing speech.
I know. She's such a good actor.
I mean, she's won the Oscar, the Emmy, the Grammy, the Tony.
Everything you can win.
Everything.
She's pretty much won at least one of them.
Yeah. And seriously, actually, I felt like her role on this episode, she was barely in it, to be honest. She's like, but the times that she was in it, which really was the last part, it made the most impact. And then you quickly empathize with her.
Yeah. See, I didn't.
You
very
didn't?
much.
I did.
I think she did a tremendous job in this role for sure. And I see how just to survive and stay afloat in doing what you're doing can lead you to cut corners like that initially. And I get how you, after many years of doing that, it just becomes how you have to do it to do your job and to, well, at least these kids are okay. But some are going to fall through the cracks, and I know it. And by fall through the cracks, sometimes really crappy stuff is going to happen to them. But I think it was, intentional to a certain extent with her character, just being so disconnected from kind of the reality of it.
I think she's been.
And unfortunately, that's the situation, like in real life with social work type stuff. I mean,
they only make $40,000 on average. You know that?
They work so hard. And it's really heartbreaking situations too. I have several friends who have adopted kids, and one of my friends, she was taking notes like on every visit and all this stuff with the child she was fostering and hoping to adopt. And they would have meetings with the social worker, and they would come and they would have no notes from the meetings. And their notes would be wrong, and they're like, "Oh, I think this happened," and then my friend would be like, actually, it was this time and it was this situation, like all these things that, yes, there, I'm sure, are definitely competency issues, but then also they're just spread so thin. That,
there's not enough manpower.
And it's not, and you're spreading people thin on something that is so important and, sometimes situation like a matter of life or death, or really determining how a baby's future is going to turn out.
I mean, this isn't the first time that we've seen a case that involves there's too little manpower. I mean, think about all the episodes that have involved the whole rape kits.
Right.
And they go and they're like, nothing's been done, or they can't find it. They're like, well, because there's just too many of them and we just don't have enough time, and who's going to do it? So I feel like this is...
Well, and even Liv saying in the beginning, like, when Dodds is like, oh, you got to get that or something, you have to go.
Yeah.
She's like, yeah,
we're shorthanded. Yeah, true.
Burn. Like, give us more funding.
It's definitely this rolling theme that we keep seeing, for sure. Of course, that is more, I feel like, was to poke at what is revealed at the very end of the episode.
Yes, definitely. And so sticking with Whoopi a little bit, her speech in the courtroom, I thought she did an excellent job of delivering that, and it was very powerful. I do think it kind of missed the mark in a sense, and I don't know if it's necessarily from the writing perspective or just from her character's perspective. And it was,
what do you mean?
With the fact that, like, yes, poverty happens and people don't like to deal with it, and then when crap happens like this, then it's easy to point where things went wrong, when in everyday life we're not necessarily dealing with the root cause of the problem. But I feel, and she's saying how she's being scapegoated for all these issues and this whole systematic thing, which, I'm sorry, you're trying to let yourself off the hook a little too easily there.
Yeah, but I have to agree with her. They are making her the scapegoat, because think about her supervisor and the supervisor's supervisors.
Yeah.
It's like there are still bigger players at hand that they could have gone after.
Right.
She's just the person who happens to be the supervisor of the front line, and I felt like she is kind of an easy target. But really, I mean, there are situations, real life cases, where people, I found this thing in, I think it was Kansas, where they actually took a survey questionnaire of all the social workers and how they felt about their job, and writing notes and documenting everything, and 20% of them felt like they were being pressured by their supervisors to have to like falsify documents, and they had to go to that point. But you know, everybody's always going to have somebody above them, and I feel like I said, I do think she's wrong and she has to like serve out her punishment, but there's still bigger players above her.
Oh yeah, I definitely agree with that. I think just the way she played her character, she was pretty cold and not assuming responsibility for her actions in the situation at all. And I think her speech was almost like trying to scapegoat, pass it on to someone else. Not about me.
Right.
But
No,
actually,
I
the
see that.
situation is a lot about you.
Totally.
And you messed up.
Right, totally. She did turn. She's like, look in the mirror, guys.
She's like, dang it. All right, what's my next play? I'm going crazy.
Yeah. I also really liked when she's when the judge is all like, do you need a break, Miss Grace? And she's like, oh, now you want to give me a break. Oh,
I know.
okay.
Speaking of the judge, I felt like the judge especially compared to last week where we like hated the judge. We're like, oh, she gets it. She's going to be on our side. And then of course at the end you're like,
no, it's not supposed to be.
And I feel like this judge in this courtroom was so like, let them just walk all over her. Like Barba was so sassy and like digging in. Like I feel like him presenting all those cases of the other children, like I feel like the other lawyer would have had more objections to that. Or
he did say it was badgering.
Yeah, but I felt like maybe the judge would have been a little bit more involved, or even said something a bit more when Jeanette Whoopi was like going off. Because she even like turned and sassed the judge.
It's true. Are you gonna do it?
Yeah, you like
I mean, I guess different judges have different styles. So
so it's interesting to see, you know, sometimes how far they can go in the courtroom.
This case, I actually want to bring about like how it was also kind of the mashup with Gabriel Fernandez, I want to say, because he was 8 and he was actually abused by his own mom and her boyfriend. And the social workers in a span of 10 years only visited 6 times. So that was like a whole another like, you know, they had to investigate what happened. Why do we miss it? Like, why are their notes not consistent?
Right. And it's just, I mean, just the fact that we have to be checking up on people to make sure that they parent right. Like, just the premise of it. Like, I'm sorry. I think it's necessary, and I get it, but like,
you know what? I saw a comment on somebody, and they actually wrote something like, well, some people just have, it's a terrible comment. They said, well, some people just have, they just have children, or they want to take care of foster children just so they can get money from the government.
Some people, and that's unfortunately sometimes the case.
That is the case. I feel like that is actually a story, like an episode that's already been done, no?
I'm sure.
Probably getting it all mixed up.
Oh, I'm sure we've had several.
Yeah,
like
I've been
Yale would be able to pinpoint the season and like what
exact
happened.
Second right there. I remember going to the mall, and I remember seeing this big family, and somehow we started talking, and the dad he's a little weird, a little off, and you know, you're just like, okay, whatever. And he had like 10 different children who all looked very different, and he said he's like a foster father. No, he's a foster father, and they seemed happy, but at the same time I was like thinking, how are you able to manage that many kids?
Yeah,
I don't know, maybe that's me being judgmental in that moment.
And I guess, and sometimes you never know like what their situation is, and if they're full, you know, stay at home, because usually in a lot of those situations you have to have one parent that's a stay at home.
Yeah, but 10 kids, like
10's a lot.
The ratio of 10, I don't know, maybe I got my facts wrong, but I was just
that is a lot.
That's a lot.
So let's talk a little bit more about the court situation. We all love seeing Barba.
I love him more and more.
Oh,
I really do. I love seeing him. And
I love his sass, and he was super feisty this week.
Yes.
And I love when he throws out his Spanish too. I'm like, yeah, Barba. I feel like he had like a new hairstyle and a little tan going on.
Yeah, he definitely looked more GQ this time.
Yeah.
I think makeup and hair was like concentrating on him a little bit more this episode, because they knew that he's more of the star of this episode.
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna make him look really good.
Yeah, because he was kind of a rebel this episode, because when NYPD gets shut down from pursuing the case because of all the political stuff going on, Barbara's like, well, I don't work for the NYPD. I'm going to have a press conference and hang you all out to dry.
Yeah.
He let them all know, like put them on blast, everybody.
He had a lot of several
good glares.
Eye glares and smoldering, like,
oh yeah,
I don't know who you're looking at, like that.
Yeah.
I kind of liked it. It was just all these dramatic close-ups, you know?
He was great, and like his little one-liners and stuff, and it was there was a lot of sass from all directions. Even when Abraham is talking to him and he's like, oh, we don't want to be the poppy that's too tall and gets cut off or something like that. I'm like, that is not subtle at all.
Yeah, he was...
Watch your back, Barba.
And in the beginning, I actually was on the fence about him because I felt like he wasn't a team player, and I felt like he was too
Barba
too quick with his words, and I felt like it's like, slow down, buddy, slow down. We need to, you know. And I feel like now he's gotten the jive of things, and I feel like he is a team player. He's on their side, because there was a few times I felt like he was fighting against them.
He would push back a lot.
Yeah.
And I think we even talked about this recently, that he's definitely come around to being much more of a fighter for them.
Yes.
And like goes up to battle with them. He'll still tell them how he sees it, and if he feels like, you know, a case isn't a good option for them to pursue, or that they're not going to win it, or things like that, but he definitely goes up to bat for them much more and kind of takes more risks.
I would love to see more of a backstory with him as well, because you understand why Olivia is so, even in this one, when she holds Keisha and she's like, it's okay, sweetie, and I'm like, oh, she's so motherly, and you know where it's coming from, because she is a mother, and you also know that, you know, her parents, you know, the whole, she's a byproduct of a rape. So that's why she's so passionate about her work. And with Barba, he's so passionate about this one. I kind of want to know, like, where did that come from?
Oh gosh, my memory on this is not going to serve me well, but I think it was last season even that we got some
his grandma and dementia.
Yeah, and we got a little bit, because he was raised by his grandmother, right? Didn't he say that? But so we got a little nugget there.
It wasn't a very good nugget at all.
No, I would love to learn more about Barba's personal life.
That was done so haphazardly.
Yeah,
because I felt like, oh, it's an episode about dementia, and they're like, we're just gonna...
whose parent has dementia?
Who are we missing? Who haven't we told their story? Oh, we'll do you. Like, and they've just put it together last minute. I just felt like, that was weak.
Yeah. No, I would love to see more of his backstory. That would be awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, we didn't notice, I don't think, speaking of backstories, and, well, this isn't really backstory, but did we notice anything about Finn wearing his ring? I didn't catch anything. We talked about that last week.
No.
I didn't notice anything. We'll have to look back on
that. I was looking for, and I told you this earlier, and I'm going to tell you guys now, is the chipmunk on Rollins' desk. So she has a taxidermy chipmunk in a glass, kind of like the one in Beauty and the Beast. Yeah, like kind of like this display glass thing on her desk. And after they did the whole redecorating the office,
I know, it looks so good.
It looks great. And the reason why they have that is because she's from Georgia, so they kind of want to give her a little Georgia twang in there. And here's a taxidermy chipmunk. Yeah,
naturally. You should have some sort of dead animal.
Yeah, why not? And
mounted.
And then apparently it's named by Ice-T. Its name is DC for Dead Chipmunk.
Nice. I like it. So let's talk. I want to talk about Keith a little bit. I felt really bad for Keith, the social worker. So his coworker went on maternity leave, and he's taken all her cases, which I think he said he went from 30 to 47. So, you know, close to doubling the amount of work that he had. So there's literally no possible way to get that done.
No.
And he already had almost, you know, was working 12-hour days, and
he looked so lost.
And I really felt for him this episode, because he's on the bottom of the totem pole here, and not that falsifying reports and things like that, not that that's okay, because it's not. He's still guilty in this situation.
Absolutely.
Definitely, but just felt like, you know, him telling us, oh, they stood over me and made me submit all these false reports. And, you know, and the lawyer even being like, oh, well, why didn't you file a complaint about your supervisor? Why didn't you XYZ? Because if you do that, like,
you get the
it's different in a government agency, because I think there are ways you can kind of maybe go up the chain of command and maybe those checks and balances are in place more, but I don't necessarily trust government more, because I'm sorry, but when you do that kind of stuff and when it's supported up the line from you, like a few levels, you get fired for that.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. I mean, there's so many office politics involved, and I mean, like you said, if he's on the bottom and he's having these people just loom over him, think about the repercussions he would get if he did file if he did file a complaint. He's dealing with these big dogs who are probably buddy with each other.
I would have wanted to hear a little bit more from his perspective of why he was so willing to still do it, you know, because I think that we see kind of in the end when he's like, well, what am I going to do? They're never going to let me work with kids again. And so I would have wanted to see some kind of rationalization for why he was willing to do all of that stuff, you know, and lie so much on the job if working with kids is his passion, you know, like what was that motivating factor? Like, did he need a job that badly that he couldn't possibly lose it? Or what was the big reason? Like, he felt like, oh, well, I'm still able to help all these kids, so it's okay. Like, what was the justification for him?
That would have been good to have,
aside from just feeling pressured. You
just
know?
Even a few mentions. It doesn't, like, they didn't have to film a whole scenario about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, that would have been great. He's actually been on SVU as well.
Oh.
He was, he's...
Everybody is repeated. And I feel like we already... a month ago maybe showed everybody, like, went through all the Orange is the New Black cast members who've been on it, which was super fun to do, and we can find that again and send it out, but I know we discussed that one. And
the thing is, the thing about repeating these actors is not that he looked familiar to me, but then I couldn't pinpoint it right away, so I had to look up IMDb. But I like when they do things like they bring an old character from an old case. Yeah. And it would have been cool to see, because in his previous episode, he was a 16-year-old who was being abused by his psychologist.
Okay.
So
that would have been a while ago.
It was like probably 5 years ago. Yeah. So why not bring him back as an adult? I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, now you kind of close that door. I would have loved to seen what if you revisit an old character and see where he is now? Because back then he was underage and now he's an adult. So how's that affected him mentally?
Because we do sometimes see characters come back.
Yeah.
So it is funny how you're like, wait, are they coming back as themselves, as a new character?
The old one?
Or as the old character?
Or using a fake alias? Like.
Yeah, exactly. So let's talk a little bit about Rollins and how pregnant she is. Because I'm sorry, like, last week and the week before, so this is episode 4, so we've had 3 episodes and we learned she was pregnant like in the second, maybe, right? Like,
I think maybe even the first.
We learned she was pregnant right off the bat. She's not showing or anything.
Nothing.
It's literally like, we don't really know how much time has passed since episode 1, since she announced that, but she was having morning sickness type stuff. So it wasn't like she, you know, and that usually only happens toward the beginning.
Right.
So, and now, boom, she's like 8 months pregnant.
And I felt like, what, now everybody in the office knows? Like, how come you guys failed to, I mean, I knew.
Like, at least give us like a 6 months later sort of thing or something, because we're all watching
the continuity is a little bit off, because I'm wondering if it's one of those things where they filmed the episodes not chronologically. Like, maybe they filmed like 1, 2, 10, 3, 7.
Yeah.
And then,
so maybe they felt like this one made more sense to get slotted in here.
I don't know. I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, who knows what their shooting schedule will be like, but I'm curious to see what her stomach. So 2 things.
So next week we'll see what the deal is. I mean, it better still be there, but that's easy to like add a bump on. But it was so bizarre how I'm watching this at home earlier, and I was like, oh, there's Rollins, and she like stands up. I was like, whoa,
she's so pregnant.
What's going on?
Yeah.
Like, where did all that baby just come from? Because last week it was not there.
Huge time lapse. And so I do wonder if that means No, I guess there's no way that she would be able to, because she's still pregnant right now in present time.
No, if we want to jump to some SVU news, she had her baby this week.
Oh, she had a baby this week.
Yeah.
Yay!
She had, so Rollins, or Kelly Giddish, had her baby this week. So one day ago, it hit the news, and a little boy, and they named it Ludo.
That's a cute name.
Which I guess it maybe is short for Ludovic or Ludovic. But yeah, a little boy, and I have this article, I can tweet this out later, but there's a picture of Ice-T tweeted a picture of Coco holding the baby with Kelly and stuff. It's super cute. And
that is really
funny
cute.
Thing about that even is there must be like something going around on the SVU set, because Ice-T and Coco are having a baby in December. And Carisi, Peter Scanavia, is having his second baby in January. So everyone in SVU is like they're having babies. So what was going on?
Baby schedule
last spring, because everyone got down last spring. It was like, let's have babies. So super exciting. So she's no longer pregnant. So I'm wondering, too, how they were gonna deal with the pregnancy.
Yeah, because I wonder, is she delivering at the end of the season? Or
like
the
next week, looking at how pregnant she was.
There's no way she's delivering next week, and then she just stays pregnant looking the whole time. Yeah. I have this baby, but
she got put. So we saw her get put on desk duty.
Yeah.
In this week's episode, so I bet there'll be some frustrations from her perspective on that, like how she,
I do miss having her on the field.
Oh yeah, because she's kind of cutthroat. She's risky too. Yeah, she's kind of a firecracker.
She's a little edgy blonde.
Yeah. So I think, I pulled a few articles too of some real SVU news for us. I know you had a couple that this was possibly likely based on, and I found an article, a case from September, so not even a month ago.
Oh wow.
And so this child, unfortunately, there was a baby that in Boston area that was found dead, and it took like weeks, I think, for people to find out who she was, and
the baby,
who she was. And they were like, picture was going around on social media and everything, and no one was coming forward and saying, I'm their parents, or I know who she is, or anything like that. And even Child Protective Services in the area had records of going and visiting this family and checking in on this family. So you would think like how these government agencies and stuff don't communicate better or don't keep up on these things. It's just heartbreaking. And so that is terrible, because it wasn't, some terrible stuff was happening for that to end up that way, where she's found, like, I think in a trash can or something like that on a beach. Just really gnarly. And then another article from today, actually, that an 8-year-old girl in Montana died in a motorhome fire that Child Protective Services had also, or had not acted on several reports of neglect and abuse. But they were on the radar. So these people were on the radar, they weren't following up, and then the worst happens, which, it's not terribly surprising that the worst ends up happening, but you just hope that if only they had gone and done these checks when they were supposed to, or if only they had listened to the neighbors that had been telling them bad stuff's going on.
I just don't get it, because these kids are already being neglected as it is, so they're getting neglected again. Like, how does that even happen?
So really, really heartbreaking. But let's go ahead and talk about next week, shall we? And well, I guess actually before we do that, we kind of left off at the end of the episode.
Dodds' son is going to be
number 2 to live.
And I had to think about it. I'm like, we haven't met this guy at all,
no,
right? He hasn't shown up whatsoever.
And I checked, and there's no real new news about it. We know, which we said, I think last week or the week before, that it's Broadway actor Andy Karl, who has been on Jersey Boys, and he's earned a Tony nomination for his role in Rocky the Musical, and he is going to be Sergeant Mike Dodds. So he's the son of Dodds that we saw this week, and he's going to be number 2 to to live. So we'll see how that goes. I
feel
wonder
like-
if they're going to be like, I'm sure they'll hit heads.
Oh my God, for sure. I mean, how
In
could
the
you not?
beginning,
And I feel like
completely.
there's going to be a lot of obviously, there's already nepotism
Oh,
involved.
yes.
And I feel like people are going to accuse Olivia. This is my prediction. I feel like the way it's going, they might accuse Olivia of being involved with the nepotism, that people are going to assume that her and Dodds are actually dating or something is going on.
interesting.
And maybe Dodds wants that perception.
Yeah, interesting. So, yeah, I don't know. I mean, because at the end of the episode, he talks about, she's like, he praises her for
Yes.
her job in trying to make the social
flips
system
it
a
right
better
in.
place, which kind of is underhanded in a way. And she's like, well, I take it I didn't get the promotion. He's like, actually, I had to pull some strings and make a few sacrifices. So I've got your number 2. You don't have any say in it because I kind of need a spy to keep tabs on you, sort of thing. And it's going to be my son. Have a good night,
Surprise!
Yeah, so that'll be really interesting to see how that rolls out. And it doesn't look like, so let's talk about next week. It doesn't look like we're going to see him next week, I don't think.
I mean, why would they show him
Based on
that
the teaser.
Why would they show him the teaser just yet, though?
Right.
Because they kind of want us to still be like surprised.
Yeah, and so next week's episode deals with, it's called A Nation Divided, and in the teaser that we saw, a black man's shot by a white cop, and the cop says he saw him reaching for a gun. There seems to be question about whether or not he actually had a gun, and we see signs, Black Lives Matter signs, and it's obviously very relevant to what's been going on in our country the past year.
Ferguson and everything.
So all these things going on, and
Avon.
so I'm interested to see how they deal with it from the SVU perspective, because Scandal did an episode very much like that, like nearly identical, last in the spring. So
And how did that turn out?
I mean, as it went like how people would have wanted it to happen in real life, I
Gotcha.
feel like.
I almost feel like
Olivia, and there's an Olivia Pope in Scandal. She's like holding a sign and like down there protesting herself and all this. So, I'm curious to see how SVU
I mean, the
approaches
way it
next
looks
week.
like it's going is it looks like they're siding with the cops on this one. I don't know. And I'm kind of like, will this turn away some fans from the show?
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know. I guess we're doing predictions. Sorry, we didn't really announce it, so we can get our prediction party music going. Oh, thank you.
And now,
Party.
your AfterBuzz TV.
Retroactively a little bit.
Yeah.
So I think it'll be a fresh perspective from. I mean, I would hope that it's kind of a fresh take on it, because I literally just binge watched the last season of Scandal, so I feel like I just saw this,
Right.
and if it's the same exact episode that
be overwhelming.
they did, it's going to be like, okay, been there, done that. So I'm curious to see how they handle
Well,
it, and I
it's
wonder
intense.
if Baby Dodds will come into the picture, because this is like such a high profile situation, and maybe they'll want him to get started right away.
I think he will. I really do, and I think that it's added to the more drama by having them butt heads.
Yeah. Ooh, so next week's could be
I'm
real
gonna be stressed out.
real juicy for us. So stay tuned. Yeah, I think, anything else? This was a big episode. Anything else we want
I
to
guess
share? You guys were chatting a ton in the chat roll, and thank you so much for that. My computer died, so I don't know what you're saying right now anymore.
it's all black.
Sorry, but I was there loving the comments and everything. While I had it up, it literally just went black a minute ago. But yeah, I think that about does it for us here on our Law and Order SVU after show. As always, guys, make sure you guys are subscribed to us on YouTube, youtube.com/AfterBuzzTV. If you're watching this right now, just hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. And like we said in the beginning, please tweet to us throughout the week. And when you're watching the episode, use the hashtag ABTVSVU, and we'll be sure to see it. And be sure to check back next week. Same place, same time, every week. Can't wait to talk to you guys about next week's episode.
Yeah.
And I'm Lauren Salaun. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Snapchat, all over the place at Lauren Salaun. That's LAUREN SALAUN. And Isabelle,
And
ready?
you guys can follow me. Sorry, I was.
sorry.
You can follow me on Twitter at Isabelle Do, and then Instagram at Isabelle.do.
All right. Keeping it pretty simple,
Yeah,
but there you go. You'll
there's
find
one,
us.
yeah.
So hope to see you guys on the social medias, and see you back here next week.
Yeah,
Thanks.
See you guys later. Buzz you later.
AfterBuzz TV.
From executive producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff, we would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Dun dun.
Oh, dun dun. Dun dun.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.